Good evening. My name is Gisela Zayas, and I will be covering anxiety and certain subtypes of anxiety, three specific subtypes. S- I chose to cover anxiety because I actually suffering from anxiety myself. Um, Last year, I went through a really bad panic attack where I thought I was actually dying. I couldn't breathe. It was a pretty hard time, and thankfully, it turned out to just be anxiety. Even though it's anxiety can be serious as well, it was nothing life threatening. Thankfully, um, I will be covering generalized anxiety disorder, obsessive compulsive disorder, and panic anxiety disorder, and their treatments. So, starting, we will speak about generalized anxiety disorder, and its symptoms include excessive anxiety or worrying about most days for at least 6 months, about a number of things such as personal health, work, and social interactions, and everyday routine life circumstances seems to be what general people with a generalized anxiety disorder worry about. So mostly like everything in your life, which is pretty common throughout society to worry about certain circumstances, especially when you get older and there's more that you have to take care of on your own. You become more of an independent instead of a dependent, and kind of just start to put things together and realize how much really does weigh on your shoulders. So that's where people sometimes develop generalized anxiety disorder. Um, it can also include feeling restless and wound up or on edge, and being easily fatigued. Not wanting to get out of bed. Being really you're really irritable, and you don't know why. Most of the time you don't know why. It comes out of certain times, especially times with more stresses. Your muscles can get really tense, and you'll have a really difficult time controlling your feelings and your worries about everyday life things. It can cause sleeping problems or difficulty falling asleep or staying asleep, and restlessness, or sleep that just doesn't seem like it was enough. So the people that are affected, these are some facts according to generalized anxiety disorders. Um, so it affects 1.8 million adults in the U.S. population in any given year. Women are twice as likely to be affected, sadly, but the disorder comes on gradually and can be across the life cycles. Though the risk is highest between childhood and middle aged. Although the exact cause of generalized anxiety disorder is unknown, there's evidence that biological factors, family background, and life experiences, particularly stressful ones, play a role. Many with generalized anxiety disorder avoid situations because they have the disorder, or they might not want to take advantage of opportunities due to their worry. So maybe like getting promoted, that might cause on in a lot of worry. So you might want to push back and not push yourself to those standards that getting promoted comes with, because you feel like you might fail, or even having children, getting married, big things like that. A lot of people with generalized anxiety disorder seem to avoid. It comes with too much change, too much uncertainty. Okay, so now we're going to speak about obsessive compulsive disorder. This is a second subtype of anxiety disorder. Um, and some of the symptoms of obsessive compulsive disorder, also OCD, um, include obsession and compulsion, or both. Obsessions are repeated thoughts, urges, or mental images that cause anxiety. Compulsions are repetitive behaviors that a person with OCD feels the urge to do in response to obsessive thoughts. Some individuals with OCD also have a tic disorder. This I know is also something, well, all of these parts of anxiety does have to do with imbalance of chemicals in the brain. Um, but OCD can actually be, they have some type of treatment where they can put a machine in your brain, especially if you have a tic. Um, Many with OCD experience multiple short-term effects, including the inability to function as a contributing member of society, difficulties at work, school, at work, or trouble maintaining friendships and romantic relationships. The long-term effects of OCD generally develop due to poor quality of life that most extreme sufferers have. Long-term effects include depression and constant anxiety and an increased risk of substance abuse. The increased risk of substance abuse is due to, it's stress. Just like anyone who doesn't have anxiety might turn to substances in order to help them feel more calm, or help them find a way out from, their problems. So adding on this disorder just makes it more difficult. So it's pretty common for people with anxiety or this subtype of anxiety to turn to substances. But there are many, there is a lot of support out there, which we will talk about in just a minute. Okay, the next category of anxiety is panic, and the next and the last is panic disorder symptoms, which is what I was diagnosed with. People with panic disorders have reoccurring unexpected panic attacks. Panic attacks are sudden periods of intense fear that come on quickly and reach their peak within minutes. Attacks can occur unexpectedly or can be brought on by a trigger, such as feared objects or situations. So some more physical symptoms include heart palpitations and pounding heartbeat, or an accelerated heart rate, sweating, trembling, or shaking, sensations of shortness of breath, smothering or choking, feeling of impending doom, feelings of being out of control. I can definitely relate to all of those. And it's really strange for me because I'm actually a really outgoing, I do push myself to do a lot of things. I love change. So, one thing that's hard for me to grasp is when I do have a panic attack, I don't understand where it comes from most of the time. It usually does come when something in my life is a little bit more stressful, when there is another stress in my life. So, but it really just feels really physical for me, not really mentally. So like, I feel like vomiting, I do shake, I grind my teeth like crazy. My stomach is just really upset. I can't eat. I feel like a whole different person, kind of like how you feel when you have a fever, kind of like that, except without the high temperature, with the chills, and it's a really crazy feeling. Panic anxiety disorder affects about 2 to 3% of Americans, and in any given year, and it is twice as common in women than in men. Once again. Panic disorders can interfere a lot with daily life, causing people to miss work. I completely can relate to that too. Go to many doctor's visits and avoid situations where their fear might experience a panic attack. The interference is greatest when people also have agoraphobia as well as panic disorders. So I can definitely relate to the many doctor's visits when it comes to last year when I didn't even know I had anxiety. I went into a walk-in clinic and I was telling the doctor I couldn't sleep well, and I didn't know what was going on. Like, I couldn't close my eyes to sleep. It had been 3 days and I love to sleep, so I had no idea what was going on. I thought something was wrong with me, like seriously wrong with me. And she said that I had mild anxiety. And from that day, for like a week, I was in and out of the doctor's, and then it just got worse. And I was making it worse mentally because I thought something was wrong with me. So instead of being mild, I just made it into a full blown out panic attack. I was hearing things. Sadly, it was crazy. It was just like a whole nother level. I was like in another world. And I was feeling like I wasn't speaking right. I couldn't sleep at all. The doctors were telling me, shut your eyes, try to sleep. And like while I'm laying on the stretcher, I'm like, I can't. My eyes, like I can't sleep. And I'm like, something's wrong with me. And there's a lot more that goes to it, but it was really, really crazy. And finally, after the biggest part of this whole event, my mind just like calmed down, and I was able to realize that it was really anxiety, and it was shocking. I actually had flashbacks of moments where I would be crying, because I used to live in Lawrence. Now I live in Atkinson, New Hampshire, where it's a lot more calmer. The crime rates a lot lower. But my husband used to work the night shift, and I would stay alone with my daughter in Lawrence, and I would just be freaking out if I heard like a gunshot or something, or maybe they were fireworks, but to me they were gunshots. And there was times where I'd call the police, and I'd have like a knife on me just in case, and I'm crying in the corner, shaking, calling my husband. And I thought that was normal. I thought I was being normal, like worried in a normal way, but that really wasn't normal. The level of anxiety that I was having. There are so many treatments out there for anxiety, and most of them can be related to each subtype of anxiety. So first, you can take you can try medications. There are SSRIs and SNRIs. SNRIs increase the levels of serotonin and norepinephrine, a chemical also known as the stress hormone, by inhibiting their reabsorption into the cells. SSRIs block certain nerve cells in the brain from reabsorption or reuptake, which leaves more serotonin available. And that fact is from anxiety.org. You can also try therapy, cognitive behavioral therapy, dialectal behavioral therapy, and exposure therapy, or group therapy. I tried a group therapy right after I got out of the hospital, and at the time, I still wasn't really grasping everything that was going on, so I felt like it was a waste. But there are things that I learned there that I still use now, as simple as when I feel myself getting anxious, like peeling a tangerine and smelling the tangerine and holding in just the actual doing of like peeling the tangerine. It actually calms the body, and like the smell, the aroma, it's like aromatherapy. So it like helps the body calm down. And like playing with things, like I said, I'm a teacher. So I love, like, especially if my kids are acting kind of crazy and I feel myself getting overwhelmed, I say, let's whip out the glue and the starch, and we're going to make slime. And I just sit there playing with slime, and they don't know, but it's helping me a lot to calm down, and they just love it. So adding these things that I learned in the group therapy has helped me even now, a year and a half later. So another thing is, when it comes to the medications, I do take medications. There are some medications that the SNRIs, they are highly addictive, and I chose not to take those because I didn't want to end up with another problem. So I'm taking the SSRIs, and it's helped me a lot with that. I've been trying to wean myself off because I'm the type that doesn't like to put things into my body that isn't supposed to naturally be there. So I sometimes I just have to give it, and when I'm having a lot of stressful situations happening. So we're just gonna wrap this up with just a little summary of what I've covered. So I've only covered 3 of 5 major categories of anxiety disorder. So there are 2 other out there. Anxiety can affect all people, and it doesn't discriminate against age, race, gender, or status. Although there are many different aspects of anxiety, and different categories, one thing is certain, that anxiety is very stressful to have to deal with. It can alter your life in such a negative way if not treated properly. Whether you have general anxiety disorder, OCD, or panic disorder, one is not worse than the other, but just as important to treat through medication or psychotherapy. And this most important part of this speech, I think, is this closure. If you or someone you think may have anxiety disorder, please do not hesitate to reach reach a 24-hour hotline, such as the National Suicide Prevention Lifeline at 1-800-273-TALK, where you or a loved one can speak to a trained professional willing to help you get through your toughest moments. There is a complete list of national hotlines available at www.mentalhealth.net/articles/anxiety-hotlines. And that is definitely the most important thing, I think. If you do think you suffer from anxiety, or you're having a panic attack, definitely reach out. I think the worst thing is to be alone during an anxiety attack, or even if it's not an attack, just a moment of increased anxiety. It's really important to speak to someone, because it can spiral really quickly. Your thoughts can get the best of you. And if you do, or someone that you do know, I hope that you guys do find the help that you need. And that is the end of my speech. I hope you enjoyed it. Good night.